What is going on? We are live. A bit later today. Normally start around noon, but we'll see how this goes. Yeah, I don't have anything necessarily planned, so if there's not many questions or people, maybe we'll just end this early. But I guess in the meantime, while people are kind of rolling in, maybe I'll shrink this down. I might do a bit of an app review on my own app. So we got it running here. And this is essentially the live version that is out now. But yeah, I'll just do kind of an app review of this live version and kind of what the main ideas are that need to be updated next. But if you have any questions, go ahead and drop those in, and we can go down a completely different path if you like. Let's see. Pull this chat maybe here. All right, cool. So when you go to the app initially, and maybe I'll pull up the website version. So this I think is probably how most people will find the app, is going to the website version, the traveltreasury.app. And then from here you would go to one of the app stores, which essentially look very similar. They have the same setup, same screenshots. So then you download the app. I think you kind of have a semblance of an idea of what to expect just based on if you look at these pages, but I do feel like the value of the app is not really conveyed that well on this landing page. So I think there is definitely room for improvement there. Then especially here as well, this definitely gives you a bit more of the value proposition of the app, but still it's not, I don't think it's not showing enough value in a way. I don't think it's giving you enough of a reason to download it necessarily. So I think there's a lot of potential room for improvement there. Then when you download the app, this is going to be the main page you are dropped in on. And good evening to you as well. And how do I differentiate between the admin page and the users page in the app? So in my app, there actually is no difference. There's no admin page specifically. But if I were to make an admin page, basically what you need to do in other apps that I've built, what I've done was I have a document in Firestore that essentially has all the admin IDs, and pretty much you can make that depending on how many admins you want. Like if you're planning to be the only admin, or maybe you're gonna have one or two admins on your app, you don't even really need to build it in to allow that to be updated. You could just hard code those values. I mean, you don't even need to have it in Firestore for that matter. You could just know your admin ID and then say if the current user's Firebase UID equals this is like one of the admin IDs, then you'll know it's an admin. I mean, that's kind of like the easiest way to do it if you don't want actual admin features to be available to your users. And then from there you can basically just have like a helper function that you can know if you're an admin or not on that current user. So you can basically have some kind of method that's like current user, and then like see if it's an admin, and if they're an admin, you can kind of just build it however differently you want. So maybe you don't even want to show them the home view, you want to show them a completely different view. You can do that in your navigator and just say, if this is an admin user, don't bring them to this page, bring them to some other page, and then show them anything differently. I did kind of show in, let me find the video. I did kind of show in the one video how you can add that parameter to the user field itself. But again, you only really would need to do that if you anticipate having like a lot of admins. I don't know, does that make sense? Like if it's just you don't really even need to, you can just hard code your UID in. This video here is going to be for this video will show you how to do like custom parameters on a user, so that would be my approach if I wanted like different types of admin users. Cool. So kind of back to this app review here. I don't even think that this is really that useful or valuable. Like, let's start planning your next trip. I mean, it makes sense, but it isn't really telling us what the app is going to do yet. And I think a main update to this page is to have some sort of like a lot of apps have some sort of like onboarding, maybe like 3 screens that just show you specifically some of the some of the features of the app. So that is kind of a plan for that. When you go to sign in, I mean, this is fine. This is pretty basic. I do have a test account, although maybe I should do the just create a new account. See, here's another issue. Like if I go to the sign in here, I can't get back to create an anonymous account. So I just did the same thing again. But the way to create the anonymous account is to have this and then hit maybe later. So cool, now I have an account. This page as well, I think the problem here is you're forced to start searching for a trip, and there's nothing else you can do. So you're kind of locked on this screen, which in some regard makes sense because you do want to get a user to have a trip as soon as possible. But in other ways, it's kind of like people like to, like play around on the app. This is still part of like the onboarding, which kind of is, I feel like there's a lot of potential for people to just drop off here because they get here and they're like, okay, I can't click around, I can't scroll, I can't do anything. But then if they try to start searching, then we force them through that. This part I don't think needs too much of an update. I think this like creating of a new trip is pretty fine. Like it's pretty good how it is. You could change the dates. I guess I'm relatively happy with how this is all set up. Except I guess till this part here, there was the idea of having a better way to break down your budget, and I took that away because some of the feedback was that it was too confusing, but maybe I'll revisit that. But yeah, I don't think any of this is too bad. The ad is like, I don't know, it is what it is. I'm still on the fence with ads. Like yes, I want to make money off this, but do I want to have this many ads on it? It's always a balance, I guess. I think once there's like in-app purchases in it, then ads will make more sense in a way, because then you can let people pay to get rid of them. Either way, though, also going kind of through some of the feedback I've gotten from this, which I actually just keep in a Trello board, so I'm kind of reading from that here. One is adding the ability whether the flights and hotels are booked. That could be valuable here. Kind of what that part of the feedback was like, people, like a good bit of your cost is going to be either your flight or your hotel. So if this could kind of be used more as a way to budget your daily expenses, and then you can also have a way to store your kind of like one-time fees being the actual trip fee itself, and basically splitting that apart could be useful. That I think is is definitely a valid point. Another one was different currencies. So if you're using, if you're like this is in the US and it's using dollars, the app is always using US dollars. So basically, one thing is like if you're planning to go on a trip that to a country that, for instance, like if you're trying to go on a trip anywhere in Europe, they don't use the US dollar. So having at least some sort of conversion or way to choose the currency that you want to save in is also a big piece of this, I think. Wow, yeah, 4:15 a.m. Are you just getting up or just going to bed? That's quite that's like the dead hour of either too late or too early. Because 3 a.m. is like late, like that's late in the night, and then 5 a.m. is early in the morning, I feel like. But yeah, I don't know that this is the best time to actually stream. I was debating whether to even do one of these live streams today, but yeah, and then I kind of didn't get around to it till now. Like, here's something kind of interesting. What YouTube will show you. So they'll show you in your audience. Let me move this. They'll show you in your audience like when people are online, and typically on a Sunday, people are online mostly between like I guess these are the people that are subscribed to my channel are online between like 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. So even doing it at noon is kind of too late. So really, I should be doing this live stream like 10 a.m. But yeah, now we're at like it's like 3 p.m. So there's like no one online, I guess. Which I don't know. This is kind of cool, I think, to look at. But let me move that back. I don't know. This stream, I mean, if we have any questions, anything you guys want to talk about, let me know. I mean, I feel this one's kind of a rushed one. I also think these streams do a bit better when they're posted earlier, I guess, because you can schedule them. But yeah, ask me anything and I'll try and answer it. But yeah, going back to just how this app can be better. Another big piece of feedback I got was you can't edit this. So once you have your trip here, there's no way you can change it. So for instance, like the date, if you type this wrong or you want to change it or your plans change, nothing you can do there. You can't edit it. Also, if you want to change your budget, there's no way you can do that. Everything you enter is just how it is. The only way you can change it is to actually delete the whole trip and then start a new one. So that is probably the biggest like functional thing that is missing. That is like pretty much required for this main page to begin with. Another thing is like there's nothing you can really do on this page. So other than like adding notes and then being able to type in a note here, there's no like interaction you can do. So ideally these cards should be clickable, and when you click them, some other more detailed data about what these are shows up. So for instance, if 2 days until the trip, if this was clicked, maybe it starts to tell you I don't know, maybe it tells you something else. Maybe it like brings you into more details about preparing for your trip or like getting ready for your trip, things like that. Same with the current daily budget. It could talk about stuff like that, or it could talk about things like better ways to budget, or what a good budget means, or like how much you should be saving. A lot of potential. Basically, generally though, not having these just be these static cards. Same here, like transport. This would be cool if you clicked it and then you can enter your flight information or any other information that you have. Maybe you're renting a car. You could put that information in there. Yeah, so that's a huge thing. I mean, really, this app is not ready to be live to an extent. That's partially why I haven't been Haven't really started doing any of the marking side of it because it isn't really functionally. I mean, it functions at like a very, very basic level, but this, I think I'm happy with this. The way you can enter more funds. There's no there's nothing with this page specifically that I think needs to be changed anytime soon. So it's really a matter of just making this more interactive and adding really more features to it. I think would make it more valuable. All right, cool. We got a question here. How can I make a clean code? What do you suggest me to be clean in my code? Yeah, so generally, I guess with writing cleaner code, the biggest, or I think for me, that the most important thing that I'm kind of getting to now with writing clean code is, well, there's a few things, but the main thing is you want to be able to read it and understand what the code does quickly without having to having to like figure that out. I think a lot of parts of that come down to like naming, like what you're naming your stuff. So I don't think it's ever really a good idea to name a variable like any letter, like A or X or Y. That almost always just makes your code harder to read. It seems like a good idea because it keeps your code smaller or shorter, but you need to realize that the code that you're writing is not for the computer. It's for you. So it's for you and other developers to read. So if your code is readable by you or by like humans, that is like number one in writing clean code. And because the computer is just going to compile all of this anyway down to like, the machine code that it reads. So you don't need to make it as like, you don't need to make it all on one line, for instance. You can space things out, because also with your program, it can get like, there's ways you can compress all of that when it's getting compiled. So you can compress it all. And there's even ways that you can change the variable names so that there's generally, like with Flutter, there's a way that you can get it so all your variable names and method names and like class names can get turned into just like random strings so that your app is harder to, what's the word? So, like copy is the general word, but there's like a specific word where someone takes your app and then tries to build it based on what it looks like at this point. But yeah, essentially copy, it makes it harder to copy the app. So I think that's like number one of writing clean code, is writing code that you can read. Secondly, I think not being afraid to keep extracting things out, especially in Flutter. Because with Flutter, you can just make these like very deeply nested, these very deeply nested widgets, and have all this logic just like getting nested into this big, like I probably can, if I pull up the Flutter code, I could probably find a good example just in the app that I am building right now. Let's see. So, this is kind of a good example actually of what I've currently been working on. So this page here is that home page. Like, we could have easily written this all in one file and put all these components in one file. So this is going to be the home view. And you can see the home view right here is like 50 lines of code. So it's not much. And that is generating all of this over here. So it's a cleaner approach to essentially make all of these components separate widgets. So for instance, we have the home header here. That is all the code that is generating this block up here. And you can see it's just one line here. And then that is over in this other widget called the home header. But you can see it's just a container. Like, this is just a simple block of code that easily could have been dropped right here instead. And I think when you first start writing your apps, a lot of times that's what you'll do. It's definitely what I've done. So, I didn't realize this was covering that. I think you kind of get the point though. Hopefully you saw some of that. But yeah, basically the home view. The home view doesn't need to have all of this long drawn out code. It's better to pull out widgets. Ideally widgets that will get reused. So in theory, if this home header could be reused somewhere else, I mean that, like imagine we have another page that isn't this view, but we still want to show our total saved. We can reuse that now and just display that there. I think that's another, I mean, that's definitely another advantage of like extracting stuff out, but it definitely takes a bit to get used to that. So when do I think the block pattern is necessary, and what do you think about it? I don't have a ton of experience using the block pattern, so I can't really answer that well actually. Um, I don't think you need it. I think it's kind of like it's like a pattern that you can choose to use if you want to use it, but you can build your apps without it. It's not like a required pattern to use. Um, but yeah, I haven't actually myself used it, so it's hard for me to say when that would be necessary or what kind of case that solves. So yeah, I'll get back to you on that in terms of like I'll look into block and then maybe make a video about it, and then potentially if it makes sense, I'll rework the code of this app into that. But I think like block versus provider are kind of, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you would use block and provider in the same project. I think it might be one or the other, but either way. I mean, if your question, yeah, you can try them. If you say you have a lot of questions, but I might not be able to understand your English. I mean, go for it. Type it out. I could try to understand it. If not, then it is what it is. We'll just move on. Yeah, this and like you've seen a lot of posts about block, and you didn't think it worked on your project. I agree. Like I don't think it is for every project, and I mean personally, I'm using like a version of provider on here, but this is kind of like something that is very confusing actually to I think a lot of people that watch any of the videos I make. I'm not actually using the provider package, like the provider, and this actually maybe I can just show you in the code. Let me move that, and then all right. So I'm not actually using the provider package, but I have this service. I think it's a service. No, it's a widget. So in this widgets folder, I have this provider widget here, which is just an inherited widget. And then, which is what the provider package is doing, but the provider package has like all these other nice things kind of already built into it and built out. But my provider, which that's where it gets confusing because I called it provider, and then people that watch some of the videos think it's the same. It's like part of that provider package, which it's not. But an inherited widget is just essentially a like very high level widget that is above essentially all the other widgets in your app, and then you can have variables on it. So you can see I have these three variables, which colors I'm not even using currently, but I have these three other variables, and then my instance of provider needs to be defined with these three variables. And then those three variables are available throughout all the widgets below the provider. So then if you go into my main app, my main.dart here, you can see we have the run app, my app, and then the my app here is a stateful widget. And then in the state of that, you'll see the highest level widget that's returned is that provider. So that is this provider widget. And then from there, right here, I define those three variables. And then these are now accessible within my material app because my material app is actually a child of my provider. And then the material app works how any of these Flutter apps would work out of the box, where you basically just have, any of these routes are going to be kind of within this material app. So that's like the pattern I'm using in this app, which there are multiple patterns in Flutter. Block is one, provider is one. Those are probably the two most popular, but there's a few other ones as well. And mine, I guess, is kind of a custom one, but it is essentially the provider, just a watered down version of it. Cool. So, starting a career in software and learning for yourself and watching the videos, do I have some tips for you? Um, the main tip, I guess, I mean, I think anyone who is learning software is essentially doing it themselves. Like they're learning it themselves. You can't learn, like you might think, oh, you go get a computer science degree and then you know how to code. That's not the case. Like going and get a computer science degree or any type of degree in that field will help you, only that it will give you access to all these people who also know stuff, right? But they're not going to go and like you have to go and write code and read code and do all that to become a good software developer. Really, you need a my main piece of advice for anyone who is like trying to learn anything, and this is like advice that I feel like everyone gives, is to start your own project. So build your own app, and don't worry about, like, yes, go learn the basics. So go learn what variables are, go learn what for loops are, go learn, if else statements, those basics, like what a function is, what a class is. And all of that is kind of like just general. It doesn't even matter on the language. So all that is pretty general. Then you pick your language that you want to learn. So if you're going to do Flutter and Dart, I mean, Dart is the actual language, Flutter is the framework, but they kind of, I mean, if you say you're using Flutter, it's not like anyone doesn't know what you mean. So then if you're going to choose like Flutter and Dart, then go ahead and write an app, like build an app with it. And the cool part about that is you could come up with an idea for an app like relatively quickly, I think. Any app that you want to build. I mean, you could even build like a clone of an app that you like. So if you want to like rebuild Instagram, you can do it just for like fun, essentially. And as you're building the app, there's going to be so much stuff that comes up that you're going to be kind of like faced with at that point where it's like, okay, I want this button when I click it to bring me to another page. How do I get that to happen? And then you figure out how to do that. So, okay, I click it. Now I'm on this other page. And then now I want to be able to enter a number here and then click another button and then have the value on this first page update. So that's like your scenario, and you have all these scenarios of things that you want to happen, and then you just figure out how to make them happen. And in that whole process, you're going to learn how to do all this stuff that you would never get that good of an experience if you were trying to learn it just without having an actual project. So yeah, basically just start any project that you want, and that's probably the best way to learn software development. I mean, I could show you the first website I worked on. Let's see. It's called projectmind.guru. So this on top of it now is just this is not the actual app. This is just kind of a sign up, try and collect people's emails. But that was added like much later. The real app, and you'll see how slow this is because the app is on like a free server, so it's not even like, no one uses this. It's basically a portfolio in a way, or it was used as a portfolio to show that I can build a website. And this website easily got me my first job. There's no question about that. I keep forgetting about this screen here. Yeah, this website easily got me my first job. This was built like 5 years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, probably. And it was built, yeah, with Ruby on Rails and very basic stuff. And it's simply like all the typical Rails apps. It's just like a discussion board, like a form that you can make comments, log in, all this stuff. Basically a ripoff of like if this were to do well, it would be a competitor with Reddit, but I mean, it's not. There's nothing that makes this that different. But being able to, like in your job search, being able to link out a live project and saying, this is something I built, that's going to make you stand out for sure. And then ideally, which is kind of like the whole purpose of this channel, is being able to build that thing and then actually make money off it. So that is the real goal for me and for like the current stuff I'm working on. But definitely your first few apps are probably not going to be that. So you kind of need to get your first few apps written, and they'll be like small, simple apps. Do I think this travel treasury is going to be the next big thing? Definitely not in the current state that it's in. I mean, there is potential here, but there's a lot of work left to do. So this might be, I mean, depending on if I want to stay with this idea or not, I might jump to a different app and kind of leave this as one of my completed, but not the app that's going to make me, that I'm going to be able to live off of. So yeah, I guess that's my general philosophy of learning software. Yeah, Dart is, I mean, Flutter I think is great. If you want to make a mobile app, use Flutter for sure. Unless you specifically want to learn like Swift or Java, I would definitely recommend using Flutter. And I mean, everything that's built over here is covered on this channel. Like you could see exactly how to build this whole thing. I'm not fully updated. I just finished recording the videos of how to build this page out, but all the like backend stuff has been done. So yeah, go check out those videos if you haven't already. I did cover Firestore rules. I could get you the link real quick. It's hard, I feel, to convey, like in some of these videos, I feel like it's hard to convey what's in the video with just the thumbnail and the thumbnail and the title are not always that easy to convey what's in the video, especially when there's like a lot of stuff going on in the video. But that's just something I might need to get better at. Let's see. Potentially I'll make more Vue tutorials. Yeah, I don't think I won't make them, so definitely potentially. Like I don't see this channel as just a Flutter channel, although that is what it kind of became, and it is right now. And I've said this in maybe both of the other live streams, but I want the channel to be more of a how to build some piece of software and then get that to be used by a lot of people, as well as like how to make money off it. Like how do you build a piece of software for yourself and then like make enough money off it that you can essentially just have that app. Like I don't think these apps these apps do not need to make millions and millions of dollars. They just need to replace whatever your income is. So if you can get an app that is able to give you like 50 grand a year, I mean, you can quit your job. You can live off 50 grand a year. So then imagine you build a second app and you do the same thing. and now you're making like 100 grand a year, or you just build more on top of that first app and get more users. I mean, there's so much potential, but it is so much work. So it's both easy to build an app, but it's hard to get that app to have any traction. And I think that's kind of with anything. Like, it's easy to get things kind of started now and built now, but it's much harder to get things like used, I guess, in a way. It's harder to get things like in people's hands, but that is what we are going after. Found a cross-platform project for Notes, Joplin. It has sync function. So do you mean like about the Firestore rules? You're looking for some sort of sync function? Not sure. The Firestore rules are pretty simple once you kind of understand what they're doing. They're basically just allowing certain people to view certain documents. So I think it's not that hard to, if you want things to be shared between a group of users or all users, then you just make that open to those people. Trello, yeah, as a replacement for Trello. Cool. Joplin, I've never actually used that or even heard of it. Open source note-taking app. Cool. Oh yeah, so you can have it on all your devices. I mean, Trello has a mobile app as well, and it syncs between them, but they're all kind of, I mean, there are multiple things that are all very similar in terms of this. I don't really even use, I mean, Trello is a good place to just like dump all your ideas. Like, I guess I could just show you the board I have now. Anytime anyone comments something on the YouTube channel of anything they want to see, I just drop it over here. So this is kind of like all of the requests, and then I don't like stick to this board at all, but one of the more recent ones I was adding was the feedback on the app. So that is kind of what I was talking about before. There was editing. Another one I didn't talk about yet, like sharing trips between people. This would be kind of like, if you're like, rarely is it that you go on a trip by yourself, so it'd be cool to see other people's trip, or it'd be cool to like share a trip and have a group of people that could kind of share together. And then this is something we talked about, or I talked about from the beginning, is like recommending how much to budget. So basically, if you're going to this location, New Brunsville's, which I don't even know if I'm saying that right, it would tell you like, on average, people spend, $30 here a day. But that is definitely when the app will become more like usable and more valuable. But I do also think there's value in getting something live. Like, for instance, this version of the app that's live right now is not, I mean, it's not great, but it is something. It's there, it's live, it's on the store. So, and now that there's something out here, you basically can work with that. You can work off of that. So you can start to make adjustments, get that user feedback, change things, which I think is always very valuable. Yeah, can probably live off app or contracts, projects, invoices, pictures. Yeah. If you mean like you can make a living off of just building apps or doing like freelance work, for sure. That's definitely possible. Definitely possible. But to me, that's not to me, it's not the dream to be like a freelance worker or to be like do like freelance work. To me, if I'm going to work for someone else, I would prefer to do it full time and work on like a bigger project and have a little bit more job security in that sense. But the real dream is to have my own projects that are able to just generate enough, and then be able to work on those and build them kind of to however I want, or build whatever I want, which is hard. It's definitely hard to do that, but we'll see. We'll see how it works out. Will I be making any videos for local storage in case a user has no internet connection but wants to view their budget? So this is a good point. There are with Firestore itself, there is already like a version built in of using local. It isn't using local storage like how you would use local storage if you set up your app, but there's offline support. So I believe, and I haven't tested this with this travel budget app, but I believe out of the box, I mean, this wouldn't work because it wouldn't, like if I didn't have internet connection on this, which I don't even know if you can, I don't think you can do it in the simulator. If I didn't have internet connection, this wouldn't work because it wouldn't load up all the stuff that it's trying to load up. But if you change the way that works when it's offline support, or when it's offline, there is support for like adding stuff. So you could add you could add another thing and it would be saved locally, and then when you get back online it would sync it to Firebase. But you need to build your app in a way that if it is offline, it's not going to try and pull all of this data from Firestore, which isn't set up yet. And I think there's ways you can get that. Like you can get that data still pulled from like the cached version that is on your device, but yeah, all that to say, I think yes, I will. I mean, maybe I'll just drop this right now on that Trello board I was talking about. So there we go. Just added that in. Like offline support. It's definitely like offline support is on by default in Flutter, yes, but it doesn't really, it's not like it doesn't seamlessly work by default. At least not in my experience. But yeah, I'll look into that a bit more. Yeah, definitely having some sort of subscription or better way to get paid from an app is the goal. And the goal is to do that and then like show everyone how that's being done as well. So that is to come. That is in the 2021 plans for sure. So when you're making an app, should you just jump straight in and make it, or should you gather the maximum amount of info first? It depends on the purpose of why you're making the app. So it depends on a few things. It depends on why you're making the app, and then it also depends on like what exactly do you mean by info. I guess in terms of why you're making the app, if you're making the app to learn how to code, then just jump straight in and just start building an app. So that's kind of like relates back to the comment I was talking about earlier, where it's like, what's the best way to learn how to code? And the best way is to just build something, like build an app or build a website. So if that's your intent, then yeah, jump straight in. If your intent is to build a company and build something, like if your intent is just to make money really, or to build like something that doesn't necessarily need the app, maybe a solution to it, but it isn't the focal solution to it, then you want to get more information, and then you want to even be asking the question of like, should I be building this? Because especially if you're not even the one that's going to build it, like if you're going to hire other people to build the app, then you definitely want to do that market research first, and like figure out your competition, figure out what is going to make your app different, figure out how you're going to market it, like how are you going to get users, what's the plan for all that. Then specifically if you're talking about like having some sort of app where you're going to have content on it, and like imagine if this was a news app, right? How am I going to get news into this app every day? And that is kind of like a lot of apps are like that, I think, or a lot of people are trying to build apps like that where it's like it's like content based, and knowing how you're going to get that content is super important, because if you can't get the content, the app is useless. So that's something that you should at least have an idea of how you're going to get before you start building the app, and then while you're building the app, you should also be getting that content. So try and do both at the same time. Let's see. How do you decide what feature is the most important to implement? You have so many options to choose from your Trello board. Yeah. So, how I kind of think of it is, well, now I'm kind of at a new spot in this development life cycle. So I launched the app like in December, like late December. So now it's kind of like phase 2. So it's like, what is this app going to be? Like, I need to get this app to a point where I would be comfortable spending money marketing on it. So I would not be comfortable spending any money to market this app right now, because I know that this can't convert to be more money. Like this won't, like even if I get 1 million users to use this app, they're never going to come back to it. It's not that good of an app. So that is kind of the driving factor. It's like what features do I need so that this app can be valuable? Really, that's all it is. It's like, so that this app can be valuable to people, that they'll want to return to it and use it, and it becomes like an actually useful app. So when you think of like when those features come up, and it's like one feature as an example, like in-app purchasing, that in itself is not yet a good feature to add to this, because there's nothing valuable yet to buy. So that is something I won't build like next. It's not going to be the next thing I build, because it's unfortunately like not ready yet to have in-app purchases, if that makes sense. Probably, I mean, like, even, I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely hard to prioritize in some regards, but also then it kind of comes down to like, what do I want to work on, which is kind of a nice thing that I think we all kind of have that ability when we're building our own thing. It's like, do I want to work on building out push notifications, because that's something that can definitely make this better, or do I want to work on building like like a currency converter, because that is something else that I think would make this useful. So I don't know. There's definitely a lot of ways you can prioritize. I think at the end of the day, if all of the features need to get done, then it just comes down to which one do I want to build first. But coming back to kind of how the in-app purchase one works, there are some features that require other features to be built first. So I need to have something valuable here that people can buy before I can offer in-app purchases. So that's another way to think of it. Let's see, where are we? Right here. Is it much more difficult to use your own database instead of Firebase? I'm used to database models such as those in Code Igniter. I don't know how to say that. Code Igniter, maybe. PHP. No, I don't think it's not that much more difficult to use your own database. The key here is, if you have your own database and you have it hosted somewhere, and you're able to make like you'll need some other layer on top of the database so that you can make requests to the database essentially. So you can make, like, you'll need some sort of like RESTful API on top of your database. But that can pretty easily be built with PHP. You probably already built it if you are using your database. And then at that point, I mean, all these apps really are just a way to pull data in and then maybe manipulate the data and then push it back out with with just get and post requests. So that is all definitely doable. I mean, Firebase itself, that's all Firebase is really doing. You're just reading data in, typically converting it to a model in your Flutter app. And then that's how I do it with the trips. So the trips are represented in the database. I'll pull that trip data into a trip object, so like a trip model in my Flutter app, and then from there you can manipulate the model, like the Flutter model, and then when you want to save it, it's just like a button action that you can save it to update, and it just will post or patch. It'll do like a post or a patch request to Firebase. Now, the Firebase part is nice because a lot of that is kind of done behind the scenes for you, and you don't need to worry about setting any of that up. But if you've set this up before, like if you set up a REST API for anything like with PHP, you could easily use that with Flutter. Yeah, deciding with the database. I mean, that's kind of coming back to what I was just saying. Like, Flutter is easier. I mean, Firebase is easier because it's like basically a database as a service. You don't need to worry about setting up endpoints and like writing that API essentially. SQL, I don't know. I haven't used SQL directly with Flutter, so maybe there are easy ways to directly set that up. I don't know. I don't know that you can directly set up an SQL database that just talks to your Flutter app, because you're gonna need to host that database somewhere. So even if you have that database in like AWS, I feel like you still are gonna need some sort of like request handling API level. Either I mean PHP I wouldn't personally use, but maybe like like Node.js is really popular. You can use that, or maybe like, I mean, I would probably do it with Rails, like the Rails API, just because I have a good bit of experience with Rails, but Django's cool as well. I don't know. Do you have to fight procrastination or distractions while working on your app? Yes, 100%. This is something that never goes away. I mean, it's so hard to like sit down and do the work when you have no one but yourself to kind of be the one to push you to do it. So like, for example, this travel budget app, like if I just stop, like there's nothing other than my own motivation that is making this app happen. There's no one else involved in it. It's just me. It's just me wanting to build some app. And then like even with the YouTube channel, it's like, I don't know, if I decide like I don't want to build this anymore, I don't want to work on this anymore, then it's over. Like nothing happens. There's no like, I don't get fired. No one says anything. Maybe a few comments are left here and there, but it's like, it is what it is. Like there's nothing, I don't know, that makes it hard to stay motivated, I think, because there's no one that's actually pushing you in any way to do it. So you need to find out what motivates you and like what that end goal is. So that's hard to do. And then, yeah, there's so many distractions now on the internet. It's like just even going on your computer is already immediately distracting, because you're like one click of a button away from going anywhere, like going on YouTube and just like scrolling through, watching videos, going on, Facebook, doing whatever. I mean, there's so much content on the internet too. So it's definitely hard to stay motivated and not procrastinate. I mean to come back to that, like I could have easily built this app in a month, but which is what my initial goal was, and it ended up taking me like 2 years. So that's all procrastination. That's all like procrastination and not prioritizing this app. The only way I would have been able to build it in a month is if I worked like 10 hours a day on it for the whole month, which is not. I mean, I don't know. It would have been nice, but it's not. That's like unrealistic. Feature hint. Heat map suggesting hotspots. Yeah, like I think I think what you mean is like if you chose this location, then it kind of gives you recommendations, or maybe not even if you chose this location, it just gives you recommendations of locations you can go and travel, or maybe both. Once you choose a location, then it can give you places to go in that location. Definitely, those are the kind of features that will make this app like next level usable and valuable. So it's not like it's not like those ideas aren't there, and it's not like there aren't like 10, 15, 20 good ideas to make this app better. It's a matter of yeah, implementing them, which is the hard part. And then it's also, for me, with like what I've been doing with this on YouTube, it's also a matter of like juggling it between, do I just build it and not worry about the videos, or do I build something that I can make a video about, or yeah, I don't know, like that combination. I mean, it would be interesting. I'll probably do a poll on the community channel, whatever they have, whatever YouTube has, where people can vote and like see if people even want this like every detail step by step guide to get to like show you how to build this, or would it be better to kind of do some more higher level videos and then just like go and build other parts of the app and not have to worry about making the videos for them. When you get users on your app, how will you run experiments in your Firebase database? I remember seeing you can run a local Firebase database on your computer. Will you be doing something like that? I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that. I mean, for me, I have a development and a production version of the app. So I have two different Firebase projects, and they're basically the same. They're basically copied. But that's mainly because of the YouTube channel. So there's like the real one that I built, and then there's the copy one that I'm building for YouTube. But you can do something similar if you wanted to, but in my experience, it's not that like you can use the Firebase database, like essentially your production database, when you're doing development. Just note the user ID you're using, and then you can kind of just like clean that data later. But I don't know. That's actually a good question. I'm not sure. Maybe there's better ways to develop with like a test database, because I mean, typically, yeah, you would always want to use like a test database with like fake data that you can manipulate, and maybe that's what you're talking about, and like access that way. Because that's a good point actually as well, because if there were features where it's like shared between users, I mean, probably though I would just create like 2, 3, 4 fake user accounts and use those for testing. But yeah, I kind of see what you mean. I don't know a good answer for that. I mean, me personally, I don't use a test database in my Flutter projects, but my project is actually also not that big, so that's part of it as well. Maybe if it was like bigger and more of a robust project, I would look into doing that as well. How many hours did that take you? I'm guessing you mean how many hours did it take to build this? Quite a bit. I would say quite a bit. I mean, if you were to compress all the hours together, maybe like 80 hours. But it's been over the course of over a year, so It's like a few hours here. Like a few hours every week maybe. I am a software developer. What do I do for a living? I'm a software developer. I have a 9 to 5 job. So I do like web development though, not app development. So it's a little bit different, and I think that also kind of makes things slightly challenging when you're going when your day job is essentially writing code all day, and then you have this side project that you're trying to work on, and it's in a different language. Because I don't know, after you work for 8 hours, and you're probably writing code for maybe like 5 to 6 hours of the day, kind of like the last thing you want to do after that is go and write more code, and then especially write it in another language, which then I don't know, like it is a bit of a mindset that you have to keep switching between, because like the what I do in my day job is mostly Rails, like Ruby on Rails, and like front end stuff like JavaScript as well, but then Flutter is like a little bit different, so you kind of have to get in that different mind space. And so yeah, I really only work on this on the weekends and like some nights, but that also limits progress for sure. Like if I had no full-time job, this would be much quicker. It'd be like it would be my main job. So tried the app. Did you not use safe area for the banner ad on the profile? Maybe not. That's potential. Maybe the ad comes up like shoved up over there, possibly. I will look into that. I mean in this one it looks okay, but I feel like maybe there are issues there. So I'll look into it for sure. It'd be awesome to work live as a team. Like you pick someone and tell him or her, make the text red and send pull request. Yeah, that could be cool. Like kind of like a hackathon style, collaboratively all build some individual app. Yeah, that is a good idea. Maybe we do that. Maybe we do like a 24-hour live stream, build a brand new app, and everyone kind of can collaborate on it and just work on different features, and then we all kind of send pull requests to the main repository and link it all together and see what it looks like. I feel like that would be fun for sure. It'd be cool to see how that would work. It'd be hard to divide out the work, I think. Like it'd be hard to kind of divide out pieces of the work, but not a bad idea. Does Firebase scale with more and more users using the app? Will it become really expensive at some point? It definitely scales. Like you definitely can have like a ton of users using it, but yeah, it'll definitely become more expensive. There's a way you can look at the price. Let's see. Here we go. They have like a price chart, I think, that you can go through. There's one where you can like move a bar and it tells you exactly how much. I don't know. I can't find it now. But it gets expensive for sure. I mean, you can see kind of like right here. It depends on the size of your app. Like most apps, like small apps, like 50,000 reads of a document is a good bit for like your test and like a low. Oh, this is not. this is being covered. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it definitely gets expensive. It could get expensive. But in theory, if you have like, I mean, you can see like it's not that expensive, but it would get expensive if you have like millions and millions of rights. But yeah, it's like what, 3 cents per 100,000 document reads. So that's actually not that much. But if you have like massive amounts, in theory you'll be making money though, so you'll be able to pay for it. Yeah, it could get expensive, but I think it's not. I mean, it's not something I worry about at this point. What's future for Flutter? I think the future of it is definitely like part of it is the web, like Flutter Web, and I mean generally the future of it is like just making it more cross-platform. I think like having more support on all these things. Web seems like the next big push. I could see them adding in like capabilities for like watch OSs, like the Apple Watch and then the Android watches. I think their goal is probably to be like the one code base that you can write everything with, but I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that. I'm not sure what will actually happen with it. I don't think necessarily anyone is. Can you make a video on how not to make Firestore bill expensive? I'm afraid to use it. Yeah, sure. Let me add that to the Trello board as well. I think generally what you want to just be mindful of is only read and write the data. I mean, writing it is obvious, but only read the data that you need. So, for instance, this trip right here is on this one user's account. So there's one trip document on this one user's account. So you want to structure your Firestore setup so that you're able to just access this one document easily. So you want to make sure you're not like looking at every trip in your database and then just filtering through and finding that one document. Instead, you want to know what this document's ID is and then just like go to that document. So it's like kind of a general, like the biggest like tip I would give on that. But yeah, I can make a video going more over that. Glad to hear that. Yeah, you like the videos. Great. I mean, yeah, that's the whole point of this. If the videos are useful, I'll keep making them. If it like drops off and people don't find them useful anymore, then there's no point to continue making them. Yeah, weekends and nights. That's when all the side projects get done for sure. I mean, it's for sure you can like take all that risk and like quit your job and just go 100% into your project. And at some point I do feel like I'll do that, but it's also being smart about it in a way that ideally your side project is making some income before you go and take that leap. So that's kind of where I'm at. Cool. A couple last ones and then I'm probably going to cut this. So going from web to Flutter last year, the hard thing that took time was state management. Is it your first Flutter app and what was hard for you? Yeah, this was my first Flutter app. And the state management part I was kind of a little bit familiar with already because I did use a good bit of Vue in the past, like Vue.js. And there are a good bit of similarities, I think, between like a JavaScript front-end framework and Flutter. Probably more similarities between those two than there would be between like Ruby on Rails or like other web frameworks. But yeah, it definitely takes a little bit to to understand that whole concept of state and how like different variables can basically be changed by the state of other variables, which once you kind of get it down though is pretty cool. It's like pretty powerful. I think learning Flutter made me a better, or like made me understand those front end frameworks better as well. Like understanding like state in general better. Yeah, that I guess is what that I don't know that it was like hard. It was just different. Like it was different too. It was there wasn't like a main thing that was like hard to wrap my mind around. Oh, I mean like sure, the beginning of it like none of it made sense. But yeah, once you get I mean once you understand that you can just like set the state of a variable, which is basically like setting the variable's value but not saving that, it's kind of pretty cool. But at the same time, that's the same thing you can do with like Vue.js. Like you can set a variable's value to change, but you're not saving it in the database yet. And that, I guess, to sum up state is like how I think of it. It's like state is just I'm going to manipulate this, but not save it to the database yet. So it's in a different state, but it's not been saved or not persisted. Yeah, that sounds cool. Oh, like the full-time work, yeah. Trello board. Yeah, the Trello board is cool. I mean, it's better than I still write stuff down a lot by hand, but the Trello board's nice because you can look back on it and it's all in one spot. Is it realistic to think that you can make a lot of money creating mobile apps? Some people did become very successful. Can we assume we can too? Yeah, there's no reason you can't. It's not that easy though, so I don't think, like, if you think you're going to be able to, if you think you're going to be able to basically follow a YouTube tutorial and make the same app that they made and then put it online, no. The answer is no then. Like, I don't think this app right here in its current state will make a lot of money. I don't think it's not that good, to be honest. I mean, there's just nothing there. It's not that usable. There's not that much value in it. So if you can make an app that is valuable to people, you can make a lot of money. That's the key to it. It's harder and harder because there's a lot more competition now. There's a lot more apps out there that are really well done, but it's still definitely possible. What I'm excited for is the new opportunities that are coming with the evolution of like technology. So kind of what I mean by that is mobile apps are definitely still a huge market, and there's still definitely a lot of opportunity in mobile apps. I mean, how old is Airbnb and Uber and even like the Cash App or any of these like really popular apps now? They're like, I don't know, less than 10 years old, something like that. That's pretty new. But the cool thing is like when we get a new hardware update, which we haven't had in quite some time, that's when if you can be one of the first people, there's like so much opportunity. So for instance, like when the iPhone first came out and it first had the App Store, people were making apps that were like, very low quality apps. There was like the bar to make an app was so low. So at that time, like an app like this, like if this app here launched in, 2009, 2010, I think this would have done very well because the competition was so much lower and the quality of apps was so much lower. But now the competition is a lot higher and the app's quality, like app quality is so high that you really need to like bring your A game. Where more potential could come is like if we have a new device or some new thing, potentially like glasses, like wearables, and building like software for those, or even like VR. There's definitely potential still in VR that has not taken off, like AR VR. That's like maybe gonna happen, maybe not, but definitely me myself am kind of always on the lookout for these new potential hardwares to jump into. But I mean, there's still always a place for websites right now, like in the current state. Like people are spending a lot of money to build websites, and same with apps. So yeah, it's definitely realistic to think you can do it, but it is a lot of work and it's not that easy. So it depends on if you want to put the time in. Why did I choose Firebase rather than Ruby-backed API? Never wrote Ruby, but DHH seems to say that Ruby on Rails focuses on developer happiness. Yeah, Ruby on Rails is great. I mean, I enjoy writing Ruby and Rails. Firebase though is just so much easier for a mobile app. Like you don't even need to set it up; it's already set up. You just decide the structure you want of it, and then you just send your like JSON object to it, and that's it. So if this app scaled and I had like a ton of users on it, then yeah, I'd probably spin off the back end and actually build it myself, because then it would become cheaper and I'd have a little bit more control over it. But not to say you don't have almost full control over Firebase, but Firebase is like it's like a backend as a service. So you don't need to worry about your backend. It's essentially like hiring a backend developer, and you don't need to hire a backend developer because the backend's basically already built. So really the main thing is for ease of use, or ease to get this built quicker. Can you make a video on using Flutter to make HTTP requests? Sure. Quickly, I've used Dio, D-I-O, in the past. That has worked pretty well. But yeah, sure. I'll throw this on the Flutter board, or I mean, I'll throw this on the Trello board as well. Working on a project for 2 years requires good project management. You seem to use Trello. Could you please make a video about that too? Yeah, sure. I did make a video about Trello a little bit, but it wasn't that in depth, but I'll copy the link here. Here's the Trello. It's not, it just kind of talks about Trello a little bit, but I can make maybe a more in-depth one on Trello. Put a mug for sale, I'd buy one. Cool, yeah. Get some merch. Get some one-man startup merch. Yeah, there we go. I'll put that on the Trello board too. Yeah, merch would be cool, for sure. Yeah, the fart app, remember that? Or like that one where you like chugged beer, or there was the one where it was like a gun and you just could fake shoot the gun. When will you start marketing for your app? Pretty soon. I just actually this weekend, just yesterday, finished recording all the videos for building this layout here, which I don't know. They took that. That's been like a wall I've been trying to get through for a while. Like I've been procrastinating on that for a while. So now that that's done, I'm kind of at like a spot now where at least I have them recorded. I still need to like edit them and put them live, but basically the app that's live is now kind of caught up to, or like the YouTube videos have caught up to the app that's live. So now I could kind of start doing new things and like building new things in the app. But then that's another thing, like maybe no one even really cares about how to build these specific pieces of it. So, I mean, we'll see how those videos do and then kind of reevaluate some things, but I'll start marketing, I think pretty soon. I think I want a couple more smaller updates at least to this, and then yeah, start marketing. I mean, the free marketing stuff I'll probably start doing, but I don't want to like waste time marketing something that isn't ready, if that makes sense. So I need to make sure this is ready. Thoughts on getting a speaking gig on a Flutter conference as a marketing student or as a marketing stunt once Google starts taking notice and mentioning your app as a nice Flutter example, things start rolling. Yeah, I mean, for sure. That is for sure a good point. I mean, generally like part of the motivation behind the YouTube channel itself was a marketing ploy, like a marketing stunt to build the app on YouTube. And then all these people who would be building the app along with me when the app was live would be more interested in downloading the app than because they would be kind of invested in it and they'll check it out. And even like now, if anyone goes and if anyone goes and tries to watch any of these newer videos where it's like, oh, let me show you how to build this, they'll be and then I also tell them you can go download this live version, they'll probably be more likely to download it. But then the YouTube thing kind of rolled into kind of this cooler project of its own, which has been pretty rewarding generally, I think. Yeah, so that is probably it. We're already past an hour and 20, so thanks for dropping by. I feel like probably maybe Sundays, maybe earlier on Sundays is a better time to do these, but I think we had a decent amount of good questions in this one. So yeah, next next Sunday, probably try and do it a little bit earlier, but hopefully I'll see some of you guys there as well. All right.